Well, I just finished watching a movie that I have been really looking forward to seeing. Um, that is the movie Devil, and I am a huge M. Night Shyamalan fan. He's probably my favorite director, um, and this movie did not disappoint. I thought that The Last Airbender wasn't a bad movie, but it was not M. Night Shyamalan. Well, M. Night Shyamalan is back. This was a very, very good movie. Uh, Definitely gonna have to buy it, and you should all see it. It has a strong uh, gospel message in it, I think. Starting with signs, it really seemed like he was kind of moving in a direction of kind of subliminal evangelization. Now he doesn't come right out and say, Jesus is God incarnate. He died on the cross for your sins. Receive him, but I think that is the basic idea behind the movie. Um, but I'm gonna have to watch it again. Perhaps some things could have been a bit. I'm gonna have to watch it again. I really can't say much about the movie because I don't want to spoil it for you. He has a lot of twists and turns, so if I say anything, I'll be saying too much. That's not what I wanted to talk about. What I wanted to talk about is um, Richard Dawkins and um, Francis Collins um, have things in common. Um, they are both evolutionary biologists. They both written books in which they summarize the argument of the book, the God delusion for Dawkins, and the language of God for Francis Collins. Now, the uh, arguments of these two books could be taken to mean that science and faith, science and religion, can go hand in hand or not go hand in hand in the case of Dawkins. So there's faith on the one hand, reason on the other, and can the two meld? Um, so this first from the God Delusion. This is the summary that Dawkins himself gives in the chapter Why There Almost Certainly Is No God. So this is the summary of his argument in that book. The argument for the non-existence of God, the probable non-existence of God, or as I'm taking it, this is not quite what Dawkins was saying, I think, but by extension, we could take it this way. I think that science and religion are incompatible; they're foes. All right, number one, it is difficult to explain and this is my own paraphrase of it as well. Number one, it is difficult to explain the apparent design of the world. Number two, we want to explain apparent design with actual design. Number three, we ought not do that since we thereby generate a bigger problem, namely, who designed the designer. Number four, evolution explains apparent design in biology. Number five, we don't know how to explain apparent design outside of biology yet. Number six, physicists are working on the problem and have made a bit of progress so far. So that's why there almost certainly is no God, the main summary chapter of the book, The God Delusion. Now, when we turn to Collins, let's see here. So there's a few uh, problems I think with that argument, which I wanted to address and compare it to what Collins said. So evolution of some sort argues against God. Uh, which is a scientific view, evolution, um, and the idea, again, science shows supposedly that there is no God, so therefore it's not compatible with a robust religious faith. Um, I meant to mark off the page in the language of God, um, but I was so excited about the movie that I didn't get to do that. Oh, I guess I did mark it off. Okay. Uh, God exists, then he is supernatural. If he is supernatural, then he is not limited by natural laws. If he is not limited by natural laws, there is no reason he should be limited by time. If he is not limited by time, then he is in the past, the present, and the future. The consequences of these conclusions would include he could exist before the Big Bang, and he could exist after the universe fades away, if it ever does. He could know the precise outcome of the formation of the universe before it started, and he could have foreknowledge of a planet near the outer rim of an average spiral galaxy that would have just the right characteristics to allow life. And then there's some other implications as well, which I'll get to in a minute. Alright, so Dawkins. The first thing that I wanted to point out is that this argument of Dawkins's it doesn't really seem to um, follow the conclusion. Doesn't really seem to fall from the premises. Um, but let's go through the different sub points here. The third one, we ought not do that. Assume that apparent design is actual design. We shouldn't assume that the apparent is the actual, because by doing that, we generate a bigger problem of the designer's designer. Who designed the designer? Well, I'm not really sure that is a problem. Um, the teleological argument argues from design in the world to a designer. But the traditional view of God as designer is that God is undesigned. So, for example, if we look at beyond the teleological argument in and of itself, if we look to the ontological argument, we see that God is a necessary being. He exists in all logically possible worlds. So um, he has to exist by his very ontological essence. Um, so he's eternal. He's without beginning or end. He's always been. So it would be a category error to speak of this eternal, necessarily existing entity uh, to have a design, to have another being design the supreme being. No, he is. Um, I am. That's the name that he refers to himself as, Yahweh, Jehovah, I am. So it would be false to view God as having some more supreme being than the supreme being, which doesn't make any sense. It would be false to think of a real, an even more so supreme being, a supremer being than the supreme being, designing God. Um, so that point is just plain wrong. It's category error. Number 4, evolution explains apparent design in biology. Well, that is true and false, because we do have an evolutionary explanation for what looks like design, um, I would argue it's still design, though. It's not apparent. If the ultimate designer is evolution, it's still design. But I think that we shouldn't be so myopic as to restrict our horizons to evolution itself. So uh, it seems to me that if we can discern an evolutionary pathway from a eukaryote up up to a mammal, say, um, that doesn't mean that evolution is the whole story. It could be. We could ask, well, who designed this designer? uh, if we posit evolution, then that raises the bigger problem of who designed the designer, namely who designed evolution. So I think evolution may be able to explain things within a narrow gaze, within a narrow field of vision, but if we step back to take in the whole picture, evolution is the tool, let us say, that God used. It could be that that God exists and He used evolution as a tool to design. So merely saying that we have discovered evolution is not enough to say that the design is totally explained. Uh, if we Some views of evolution will say that there's a number of contingent events that happen along the way that were highly unlikely, but yet they all happened so that humans were able to eventually arise. For example, uh, the comet hitting the Earth to wipe out the dinosaurs, if that did not happen, uh, then presumably uh, the upright walking primates, including man, uh, well, I think man's the only upright walking primate currently, but in the past perhaps there was others. But everything had to be just right in order for man to evolve. So evolution may explain the biological processes, but it doesn't explain the timing of the dinosaurs ruling the earth for however long. Then the asteroid comes in, wipes them out, so they're not going to be stepping on us, eating us, the carnivorous ones. Some of them were not carnivorous, but some of them were. So that cannot be explained by biology, but by biological evolution. Um, we need to not have our blinders on, focused just on evolution. We have to take in the whole picture. Okay, we don't know how to explain apparent design outside biology yet. Um, I guess that's okay. Physicists are working on the problem and have made a bit of progress so far. I'm almost out of time, but what seems to be implied here is this idea of the anthropic principle. You've got a multiverse. Some Each universe within the multiverse is going to have certain constants and so on. And I'm really almost out of time, so I'm going to have to leave that final point for the next video. Thank you.